I was working with a mom recently who was telling me about how every time she tried helping her child calm down, he just got more upset and more angry. She felt like her attempts were only making things worse. If that sounds familiar to you, then you need to hear her story and the one parenting tool I gave her that changed everything for her. Hi, everyone. BJ here. And this mom, I think, is a lot like many of us as parents. We're trying to help our children have these big or deep emotions, and our attempts at helping them go the wrong way, and things get louder and bigger, and we start getting frustrated too. A lot of times, this mom was saying things like, "You don't need to be worried about that. You shouldn't be getting so angry about that. You need to calm down. That's being selfish the way you're acting that way. Gosh, why are you overreacting? It's not that bad. We're going to do this tomorrow again. It's okay. We can play the game another time." Things to help him sort of gain perspective, but it wasn't working. Let's put a pin in that little story for a moment. I want you just to think about what mom's doing here. I want you to put yourself in that child's shoes. Imagine you're frustrated, or you're upset, or you're worried about something, or you're just really disappointed that things aren't going the way you were planning on today. Is this the moment you want a friend or a spouse coming into your life and telling you why you don't really need to be that worried? Why you don't need to be that disappointed? Why you're overreacting with getting so frustrated? It doesn't go well for that friend or spouse if that's how they try to help you. But that's exactly what this mom and many of us are doing with our children when they have these moments. Now, I know what you're saying, BJ. My child is way overblowing it, and their responses are completely inappropriate. I don't want to tell them this is the right way to do it. I'm not saying you should do that. We'll talk about how to teach kids appropriate ways to express these emotions a little bit later. But right now, let's just talk about how what we're doing isn't working. So we need to do something different. So here's what we want to do instead. It's exactly what I told this mom. We need to stop trying to fix or stop big waves of emotions from overcoming our children. And instead, we need to embrace the opportunity that this presents to help our children navigate those tricky emotion waves more successfully. Let me explain a little bit. Think of your child as a captain of a ship, and their ship is sailing through the waters. Now, some of our children sail their ships through calm seas all the time, and we got no problems with emotions going on here. Other children of ours, though, seem to like to go to the deep waters with big waves, and they go there frequently. Telling our children we need to stop all the waves and try to stop the ocean isn't going to work. Getting a captain who can navigate the ship better and who can start driving bigger and bigger ships that can handle larger waves is exactly what we want to do. So, what does that look like in your parenting? It's one phrase I want you to start using from now on. The next time your child starts to have one of these big emotions, don't say anything other than this: "Wow, you're really feeling frustrated in this situation, aren't you?" Or, "Wow, you're really worried about that, aren't you?" Just acknowledge the emotion. When you do that, some things are going to change for you and your child. The first thing that's going to change is exactly what changed for this mother and son. Her son, when she tried this with her son, was shocked. He just looked up like he'd never heard her talk that way before. And that little bit of shock was able to help him stop the emotion from just overtaking him, and he came out of his amygdala, so to speak, here and back into his upper brain where he could start processing a little bit more. The second thing it's going to do is it's going to help your child feel connected, known, and valued. They're going to feel seen. They're going to feel heard because you just named how they're feeling at that moment. And when your child feels heard, trust builds. And your relationship is the tool you're using now to connect with your child and to help your child, as the captain of the ship, navigate these waters. As your child feels heard or understood that you're getting how they're feeling at that moment, they might say something like, "Yeah, I feel that way," or something like that. They might just nod. This child with this mom, he nodded and his eyes would get very red and teary eyed. And you could just see him just through that puppy dog look there, just like nod. "Yes, that's exactly how I'm feeling." He couldn't say anything yet, but he could at least nod. And in that moment, that child was feeling connected to mom. And then mom did the next thing. She started using some calming strategies. She would help him take deep breaths. They would get a drink of water. They might go sit on the couch together to take a break. Do something that she knew would work for him. And I want you to recognize she was doing something she knew worked for him because that means they were practicing these different strategies during normal, calm times. Too many of us feel like deep breathing, getting drinks of water, all these different calming strategies that we hear about don't work. And it's usually because we're not practicing them and figuring out which ones are going to work for my child. We seem to think the time to practice is in the moment when the kid's having an emotion. That's not the time to practice. That's the Super Bowl. That's not the time to practice. Practice comes before the Super Bowl. Here's the Super Bowl in terms of the emotions. We need to be ready with the skills and strategies. So you want to be practicing those skills a lot earlier than when you're in the situation. If you need help coming up with ideas or how to do that, I've got a ton of them in a resource. I'll put a link down in the description down below for you. So just go ahead and grab that. You're going to love it. It's going to really help you see some changes in family life. What happened over time for this mother and son is exactly what can happen for you as well. It took weeks, months of working on this, figuring out strategies that were going to help her son uh, be able to manage a big emotion when it came on, and practicing just this simple use the phrase, wow, you're really feeling right now, aren't you? But she did that. A couple things happened. One, he started having fewer moments where these big emotions were overcoming him. Why? Because instead of sailing around in a little tugboat in these deep waters, these strategies were helping build the ship out bigger. So he was sailing an aircraft carrier now. He was still experiencing those big emotions. He was still sailing in those same deep, hard waters, but those waves weren't overtaking him as easily because the captain was better and the ship was bigger. Second thing that was happening was they were growing closer as a mom and son, and experiencing more peace and harmony in their relationship. The third thing that was happening was he, as the captain of his own heart, was starting to embrace this himself. And at times, he wouldn't even need to be told, like, hey, go take a break and calm down. He would just look at his mom and be like, I need to go take a break. I'm getting upset. Or, Mom, can I have a hug? Or he'd go get a glass of water. She would hear him starting to take deep breaths. And she could then, instead of saying, like, wow, you're really feeling, she would just look and say, great job using those strategies. Come talk to me when you're ready. Or, great job using that strategy. Would you like a hug? And it just was going so much better because they were putting these things into place. So the next time your child starts struggling with a big emotion, I want you to remember that we can't stop the waves from hitting the ship, but we can help our child navigate those tricky waters a lot better. And if you want some other ideas for helping these strategies get embedded into family life, I want you to